You're about to watch a Trains Newswire video. If you enjoy what you see, consider watching some of our other full-length videos. Selling Sunshine, the Florida Trains. Locomotive 2017, a video companion to our best-selling annual issue. Big Steam is back. All of these and more are available from our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com.
Hi, Trains Nation. Jim Wrinn with you here on another edition of Trains Newswire video with my colleague David Lassen. Welcome. We're giving Steve Sweeney a break today. Lots of news going on, and in fact, Steve is working on an interesting story. You and I were talking about it just before we started filming about an NS derailment that took place last month in Kentucky, and the railroad is suing the train crew, which is pretty rare. I think it has happened before, but it's pretty rare.
Does not seem like your best move in terms of employee relations.
It seems a little odd. So stick around and watch Newswire this afternoon for coverage of that. But right now we've got lots of news from this week. More than 35 stories, lots of them about passenger trains.
Passenger space was definitely the busy area for us this week, and that's a lot of that has to do with Amtrak's decision that they do not want to be in the charter or special excursion business anymore, which the charter part of that is really bad news for people who have spent a lot of money on private cars.
Yes.
Right now, the rule looks like it will be private car movement only from endpoints of trains, which is a big problem for people who want to go to, say, Denver or Whitefish, Montana by Glacier National Park, Lamy, New Mexico on the Southwest Chief Route. There's a whole host of cities like that get, actually Milwaukee is one of them, because from here to Minneapolis, I think, is a
Now
popular.
you could do, like I've seen some private car owners, you know, you could ride the car to Milwaukee or Lamy or Denver or wherever, and then get off the car and the car keeps going. So you could do that.
But part of having that private car, I think, is it your hotel when you get where you're going.
You don't have your nice hotel on wheels, that's true.
And I mean, there are so many ramifications for this, for the preservation industry. I mean, a group like Friends of 261 in Minnesota, their private car traffic is a big fundraising generator for them.
Big part of their operation.
And the same thing for the people who do the New River train in West Virginia. So there's a lot of concern here. One of the things that a lot of people are unhappy about is that Amtrak dropped this news apparently without any discussion or consultation with these people. So they are, needless to say, unhappy. Being a demographic group that has some clout, they are using it now with Congress, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I would say, even if you understand Amtrak's financial view of this, that it's not particularly lucrative business, it's a black eye for them and how they've communicated it.
And a lot of discussion between the railroad and the private car owners this week, and I know a lot of give and take there. So more to come on that as it evolves. Definitely
still an evolving story, but it's caused quite a stir, and you got to think it could have been handled better.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. There was also some interesting news this week. Class 1 railroad traffic way up. Coal traffic for once way up. I'm guessing, I didn't really see a good explanation for the AAR figures this week, but I'm going to guess that the late cold winter this year is causing the utilities to restock their stockpiles. And, you know, after a while, they burn up all that stuff, and they just have to replace it. They can't make all the power with natural gas.
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing a winter that does not want to go away. So I guess that's good news for the railroads.
Yes, yes, it is.
What else did you have on the list there today?
Man, I've got lots of stuff on here. Of course, we talked about the NS crash. Western Maryland Scenic picked up a Western Maryland boxcar this week. They've been rebuilding C-1309 for excursion service, And they also need a car, though, to carry bicycles from Cumberland, Maryland up to Frostburg so people can bike back down on the trail with rail on that tourist railroad. So an interesting preservation, sort of a twofer. It's a preservation project, original Western Maryland boxcar, and it's also something they can use to satisfy their customers' needs.
So it's going to be a bicycle carrying boxcar.
A bicycle carrying boxcar with a little bit of history.
Well, certainly fits their history. So.
Yes, it does.
Anything else we want to talk about today?
You had a lot of passenger news this week. Southwest Chief.
A couple of interesting things. That's true. The Southwest Chief, our Bob Johnson's been doing some very interesting reporting on a couple of fronts. The Southwest Chief, we've discovered some documents that indicate that Amtrak, in making a $3 million pledge to support work on the route of the Chief, left itself some get-out clauses in its pledge, which is new compared to anything they'd done before on this.
Right.
And Bob, doing some good work, actually talked with former Amtrak head Joe Boardman about this, and Joe was, shall we say, surprised and not real happy to hear about this new language that Amtrak has left itself, where it doesn't really have to give that $3 million it pledged if it doesn't like all the terms that are involved.
And of course, we're talking about the route through northern New Mexico, across Raton Pass and Glorieta Passes. I was just out there a few weeks ago, and it was really interesting to see. Southwest Chief's the only train on that route. And so there's a lot of need for Amtrak to subsidize that route and keep it open for them if they're going to go that way.
Yeah, there's been a huge consortium of the states involved, Amtrak, BNSF, and 17 communities along the line. Oh, as well as one of the main private car groups and a passenger riding organization in Colorado have all pledged money toward keeping that line not only open, but upgrading it substantially with welded rail and to 79-mile-per-hour standards.
And it needs it. I was surprised how much jointed rail was out there.
Yeah, well, one train a day. I guess it's hard to put that too high on BNSF's maintenance list. But if they're going to get this money and do, I mean, BNSF has pledged, if all this money comes in, to maintain that track to 79 miles an hour for the next 20 years.
Yeah. That would be a really amazing
So if that all comes together, it's certainly good news for the Chief. And I've got to wonder, even though I know that is not exactly a straight, flat route, if you've got a route that's in that good a shape and capable of 75 mile an hour, does BNSF start using it again for a little freight overflow?
Could be a little overflow, you know, get things off the Transcon, which we all know is packed. Yeah. So that's a good thing. And there was one more story this week, which I loved because we rarely get to put the word whipsaw into headlines. But we did get that in there this week. Amtrak and CN going back and forth on scheduling for the City of New Orleans. Is that right?
Yeah. City of New Orleans, on relatively short notice, CN had announced that they needed a big maintenance window for a section of the route of the City of New Orleans. And so Amtrak, to accommodate this, as it is bound by law to do when a railroad asks for maintenance, shifted the schedules of both directions of the City of New Orleans ahead by 3 hours, which means, for example, it would now leave Chicago at 5 p.m. rather than 8 p.m., which for people who use it for downstate Illinois travel is a fairly significant difference. Right. Also means that to come into Chicago, I think you need to leave at something like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning from some of those downstate locations. Well, the day came when this was supposed to start, and CN said, oh, we're now pushing back the start for 10 days.
Oh, boy.
So, so a lot of schedules got shifted for no good reason, and Amtrak apparently did not necessarily do its best in communicating this to its passengers. So another black eye for, probably less of a black eye for Amtrak, although certainly a little bit of one, then another kind of brick in this wall that's building between them and CN. Right. I mean, CN is one of the railroads that they gave an F to in their recent host railroad report card, and they've had some legal issues with CN in the past. So
I imagine that relationship will be strained yet again by this latest development.
So. So yeah, busy weekend passenger, and I have a hunch that there's more still to come.
I think so too. Just a reminder, today's version is brought to you by our Hot Spots magazine. Lots of good train watching spots in there, 75 of them to be exact. About 60, some of them are detailed very highly in there. And in fact, I'm headed to one of them later today. I'm bound for Nashville, Tennessee, and the Short Line and Regional Railroad Association meeting. And I do hope to spend a little bit of time at the Gulch or maybe some other places in and around Nashville. So,
are you getting to stay at the Station Turn Hotel?
I am not. The meeting for the Short Line Association is out at Opryland. And so that would be quite a hike. And for those of you who've been in Nashville recently, you know that Nashville now has LA and Atlanta and Chicago-like traffic. And so the closer you can be to your destination, the better off you are. So I'll be filing some reports from the Short Line and Regional Railroad meeting early next week. David and Steve will be putting them up. And yeah, it should be a good weekend.
Also, one more thing, it's a week away, but we'll mention it now. Those of you who are coming out for the CRPA Conversations event next week in Lake Forest, look forward to seeing you there. I think everyone at the train staff will be making at least a partial appearance at that.
Yeah, and we might drag a few of the guests onto next week's program. So stick around. Be surprised. You never know who may show up here next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care and be safe out there.